So we need to trim where we've marked. So I'm going to trim the excess off the side of the splint, taking time to round the corners as I go. I want to try to cut in smooth cuts without kind of snipping through the material to keep it from getting rough. And again, I'm going to round the corners. And it looks like that might be a little too firm to cut, so I'll come back to that. A little bit needs to be cut off the tab so that it's easier to don and doff the splint. I tend to like to use water for things like that because it will heat more evenly than the heat gun will, and you can just kind of put that little piece over the edge of the splinting pan to just get it heated. And you always want to make sure when you do the cut that you're just going to gently smooth the edge, and that can be accomplished by some gentle tapping of rough areas or smoothing. We don't want to do excessive smoothing or pushing of the material because that tends to just create bumps. I'm going to go back to that side I was having trouble cutting. You can cut material when it's warmish and a little hard sometimes, and sometimes it's too hot or too hard to cut. You have to kind of judge that. So I decided to heat this side a little more. And then I'm going to trim it where I had marked it previously with my fingernail. Again, I'm making sure I round the corners. We don't want any sharp edges for the patient. Nice long cuts so I don't have snip, 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 snip marks. And I'm smoothing my cut. I'm going to heat that up a little bit more to smooth it some more. Again, just kind of gently tapping and running my finger along the edge rather than doing a lot of forceful pushing of the material. Now we need to gently flare the bottom, so I heat the bottom. We don't want a big flare in the bottom because it'll make it hard for the person to rest their arm on a table or to get their clothing over it. So we just want a very gentle little flare, just a little tiny bit like that. Just enough so the end of the splint doesn't dig into their arm. Just a little flare.